Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Rwagnation League Grand Prix here in the F2 cars at Canada. We hope you like the new look. We've been working quite hard on it. Big shout out to Lolamnama for all of his efforts spent on creating these fantastic graphics. And we've got one more little special treat for you. Make sure you pay attention at the in the hype video, which you'll see later on. But before we get to that point, we have got some racing to do in the F2 cars. And obviously, you know who I am, but joining me as always is Mr. Safso. How you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you. How are you doing?
Well, fabulous. Very, very good. I mean, look at the grid. It is stacked. We have 20 drivers here today. Lots of familiar faces. More notably, someone who hasn't been here in a long time, and he's only participating for this weekend only, Tiger Racing. I have to go with Beaker for the hot lap because this guy is week on week killing it in the F2 cars, isn't he?
Absolutely. As you've said multiple times, the F2 cars, at least on this game, seem to be his absolute calling. Obviously, no pressure from the F1 racers, so now he can fully focus on this. And I think he's been in the top 5 for qualifying for most weekends now. And at the moment, it's looking very strong for him to get pole.
Well, we'll keep a firm eye locked on him then as he's going around right now. He's currently exactly say in the pole position, or at least provisionally for now. He's got to go down this back straight here onto a very tight chicane, but you're going to carry as much momentum as you can coming into it. And this is going to be the hot spot, if you like, of the circuit, both in the F2s and the F1s, because you can go for an overtake here if you want to. Ideally, you want to get it done before you get to the braking zone, but it's not a problem if you don't, because as long as you avoid the wall of champions, which he does quite nicely, you have another DRS zone. This is probably where we're going to see the overtake start to happen, as Beaker actually comes second. Azia has clearly been sweating some time trial, because this guy's put in a 1:19.293 and gets himself on pole position.
A great lap from both of them. I think Azia probably just got a better exit out of that last chicane because Beaker was ahead for most of that. I think the hairpin was the only other time where he was challenged. But I believe the top 3 only separated by 3/10. Yeah, look at that, 2.5 tenths. In fact, separating top 3. So it's no one's going to walk away with this. I think it's definitely going to be hard fought. Question is, who's going to get it done?
Well, this is it. I mean, Azia's obviously got the all-important pole position points, 4 points in his pocket already going into this weekend. So, not expecting a perfect weekend from him, but who knows? I have been proven wrong in the past. But pole position is Azia, Beaker in P2, Lando's Milman in P3, and like you said, less than 3/10 between them. Toto in P4, Marquez P5, and Alexander P6 with Roshko P7, Tiger Jr. P8 with Aviator P9. Hayden Gullis gets the top 10 spot, with Badger getting best of the rest, and you can see the rest are Dazzler, Mini, Burrito, Max, Raven Duck, Coolmanic, Ploto, Foxy, and Tiger Racing. A fair few people did in fact get their times invalidated, so obviously they're not going to get any times on the board. That's why they're starting at the back of the grid. However, this is a circuit where penalties are going to be paramount. You need to be as consistent. In fact, to be honest, it's actually more important here today to be more consistent than fast, in my opinion. Yes, obviously, if you can match them both together, fantastic. You can then be the winner of the race. But if you can only choose one that you need to be good at, choosing to be consistent is more important, in my opinion, than being super duper fast, because penalties will be applied and you'll fall right down the order very easily.
Yeah, because the amount of time that you gain from going just a little bit tiny off, I'd say isn't worth trying the risk. So it'd be better to lose a few tenths and not get a 3-second penalty, which could, as you say, drop you a few positions just on that penalty alone. Yeah, so as you say, consistency over pace, but obviously pace as well is better, because if you're just a grandma and you go 30 miles per hour, you're not going to get anywhere, are you?
No, so, exactly.
So I think it has to be a good balance. You have to be willing to take the risks, but not take them too far. I think is going to be the key.
Yep, without a doubt. And we have Azia leading us around on the formation lap. He's going to be needing to get his tyres up nice and tidy. That was Beaker giving a bit of a weave there. Protects himself from what looks like Marquez. Not quite sure what is going on there. They're very nearly a contact between the two of them. I'm just going to press my brake pedal so we can actually see forwards. There we go. Downside to leaving your pedals plugged in all the time. Well, looking at it around it, there's actually no real surprises. A lot of the usual suspects up at the front. Tiger Jr. has actually done a pretty good job getting himself P8 in the qualifying. Normally, he's not particularly amazing in the quali. It's the race where he starts to pull himself together. So, that's good. Especially when you think about it, actually. If you look at last season, if you look at the F2s where we had them, Tiger Jr. was usually someone who was really struggling. He was always a back marker. He was always trying to sort of just get to the end was always seemingly his goal. Now, this season, it's like he's been really practicing. He's brought himself into a position where he's actually pretty high up. You know, I wouldn't even say mid-grid. He's a bit higher than that. He's above the average area, and he's actually starting to perform. I'm hoping now that I've not just jinxed him and he's going to get 1,000 penalties and actually fall right the way to the back of the grid, or worse, have a crash. But, you know what? Fair play to him. In terms of effort and in terms of... how do I word this? How much he's improved. The most improved driver, I think, has to be Tiger Jr. here.
Yeah, I think he's looked at the last season and seen the struggles he's had in qualifying, and gone, okay, so this is something I need to work on. I'm going to work on it, and as you can see, that effort has paid off. And if he actually stays the place where he is, he'll be starting pole for the sprint race.
That would be pretty good for him, wouldn't it? But here we go then into this Grand Prix. We're just waiting for the drivers to get themselves into position. The lights are on. But hold your horses, because I don't think they've fixed it yet. We've already had a fair few jump starts there. Actually, lights did go out in perfect timing. Everybody starts to get going. We've had 2 jump starts. I know that Max was one of them. I didn't quite see who the other one was, but Beaker going around the outside here fast. He's going to try and stick it through. I think he might actually get this move done and dusted in towards turn 2. Yes, it's all about the exit speed, though, here from Beaker. He needs to make sure that that toe is not in use from anybody around him, and I think he's going to hold it down. Yes, he is. He's going... Oh, no, Azia's still stuck it through. Azia, he's actually held on to it. He's still P1. Despite how hard it is to go around the outside there.
And look at Nick Sana, he's round the mix as well. And someone's round. I didn't see quite what that was.
Well, there's actually a mass amount of cars going on around him right now. Somebody's been rotated. I think that was Roshko. He's actually had contact with a fair few drivers at the back of the field as well. He is going to get a penalty for a severe collision with Aviator. But Nick Sana, he saw Azia losing the rear of his car. He saw Beaker getting held up by it. And Nick Sana just went straight down the inside. And look at the gap he's already pulled. He's very far up. And Burrito Bandito, he's had a spin. He is trying to get himself underway again. And a fair few penalties being applied here for ignoring yellow flag.
Yeah, and now there's a battle between Torta and Marquez. Torta, Ryan Marquez is substituting. I think Marquez actually overtook Torta at the head. And here we go. Are they going to try and stick it out? Or is someone going to back out ahead as well? Azio and Beaker. Beaker gets past Azio before the braking zone. Torta's still there. He's trying to stick it. Oh, that's gone very wrong.
Yeah, I think you have to put the finger there on the Torta, to be truthfully honest. I mean, you don't... You know, there's a point where you've got to back out. He didn't back out. He just completely chopped him. And, yeah, I think that's a mistake there made from Torto, but it has cost Marquez. That's a bit of a shame, really. But in terms of the battle between Beaker and Azia, it was Azia that was ahead at first, and Beaker had managed to get the move done. But Azia's still here. Yes, we're not yet in lap 3. Lap 3 is when we will see the DRS being available. And I think, again, on this circuit, it's actually pretty easy to overtake. It's just about making sure you do it in the right place. You don't want to necessarily overtake here, for example, where Azia is right now, into the chicane. Because, realistically, you're going to lose that position again on the next DRS straight, which is only a few corners away, and there's 2 lots of DRS. So it's a real risk for you to try and take it there. But we'll see later on. Hayden Gullis and Foxy, the 2 teammates down in P8 and P9, are actually in with a chance here of actually going on to Horn Badger, because Piloto Paya is actually going for Foxy. He's going to have to look for the outside line. I think he's actually had to go for a little bit of a swap back there, because Foxy went a bit deep into the corner and Piloto got a little bit scared, or at least twitchy on the rear, and he's lost a lot of time now.
Yeah, and have a look at Aviator just behind Piloto. He was right alongside us in the hairpin, and then everyone just got very close and squeezed up together. Aviator in the slipstream. Is he going to go for it? Is he going to back out? He's backed out. Yeah. So the polar opposite of what happened with Torta and Marquez, who himself is 2 positions behind now. Surprisingly, didn't get damage. That was the advantage of being in the middle of the track, not at the Wall of Champions. And Hayden Gullis and Horn Badger are going at it.
Yeah, they really are. Horn Badger's on the inside. He's actually trying to keep himself motivated through that corner, and he's done a pretty good job. He's still kept Hayden at bay. Hayden obviously did have the harder line there through that whole series of corners. Hayden's got a better run through that one, though, and this actually might be a bit of a yeet down the inside, but I think he might have wing. Does Hayden have wing damage? Because he looked really unstable there. No, he doesn't. Clearly just couldn't get the car working, but he's managed to get past Horn Badger there. Badger just got stuck, and actually Fox is trying to get past him as well. He's actually drag racing him. There's a bit of wheel-to-wheel contact between the 2 of them there, but I think Foxy is through. Piloto's alongside him as well, so Badger's really going to be hung out to dry here. And I think that was Piloto who had a contact with Aviator, I believe. And that's cost him a position.
Yeah, Aviator tapped him from behind coming to chicane. I think Piloto was braking early for safety. Aviator was braking this normal spot. They just came together. And unfortunately, Piloto has come off worse. So with Aviator's now going to be trying to get past one Badger, and Foxy's going to have a go at his teammate.
Yeah, I mean, I don't suspect that they're going to be going for an attack here. He's a bit too far back. I think he's going to be just hold him back a second, go through the chicane, and then maybe get him in towards turn 1. But it's all about who gets through the chicane the fastest. It looks like actually Foxy is the one who's benefited the most. He's got the DRS, he's got the tow, he's got everything he needs to attack Hayden Gullis. And Hayden, they're clearly in cahoots because Foxy was very much let by there by Hayden. And that is Foxy up to P7. Hayden just sort of playing the long game, playing the team game, more importantly.
Yeah, and that's a good quality to see from anyone driving, is that they're not too stubborn saying, oh, no, this is my position. They are on the same team. They don't benefit from finding each other. They're just going to let the likes of Aviator behind and Piloto to catch up, who meanwhile has gone past one Badger. He's fallen down to 11th, unfortunately. But now look at Aviator. He's right at the top of Hayden, but no, he's actually lost the rear a bit. Is that going to give Piloto a chance? No, he's a bit too far back. But this battle is certainly far from over. And actually, Beaker, he's now within half a second of Nixana.
He was actually a little bit closer than that before. He just had to back out a little bit because of a poor run he's had. And here comes Piloto looking for a lunge down the inside on Aviator. Hayden Gullis is actually going to be getting overtaken as well. Aviator's going around the outside of him through the hairpin, sorry. Hayden might actually get the better exit out of that corner, but no, Aviator actually. Oh, a little bit of a wobble there from him. That could be a bit costly. Beaker getting a 2-second time penalty. Lando's Milman gets past Azia, but look at Piloto Paya coming down the inside here. He's actually getting a tow as well from Aviator. It's like Aviator is apologizing for the contact he had earlier, and he's allowed him through. There's contact behind. That was Home Badger, went into the back of Hayden, and that was a bit of a wing damage on the right-hand side there for Badger. I think Hayden's managed to escape scot-free, but realistically, that was Badger not quite braking in time and running into the back of Hayden, I think.
Yeah, he's lost his right-hand plate, and at the worst point of the track as well. That was just after the pit lane. So he's going to have to do if he chooses to pit, he'll have to do an entire lap with this damage. And so I think that is any chance of points over, unfortunately.
Beaker! Oh, Beaker's gone for a huge lunge into that third chicane. That was a very, very scary scenario. He did kind of force Nixana off the track, and I think now he's going to be at risk because Nixana is right here again. And we said before how it's kind of pointless going for a move in that second DRS zone, purely because you are going to be at the mercy of the guy behind you when you get onto this DRS straight here. Although Nixana didn't quite get the run he needed out of that hairpin. Well, did you see something?
No, sorry, I was trying to cough away from the microphone.
Oh, okay. Well, Nixana's still here, going for another move, I think, on Beaker. Although Beaker's really putting him all the way out to the outside. I think that's the right thing to do. You just need to make sure that you don't miss your braking zone because Nixana's going deep into the corner. That's actually Beaker still holding it down as we come in towards turn 3. The exit is just right for Beaker, but Nixana's is better. He's got the run he needs out of the corner. Unless Beaker can stick it down the inside, which is exactly what he's trying to do. Down through 4-5, there's definitely a contact between them. That did kind of force Nixana on the grass, but he didn't get a penalty. He may have got a warning. He's kept himself clean. Other than that, Beaker has got a penalty, remember? And this is now Nixana right on the gearbox of Beaker. And I think this is going to continue probably until the end of this race or someone dies.
Yeah, and with how close they've been getting, that either of those is incredibly likely, as Azia is still hounding the back of Lando's Milkman as well, so the battle for the podium still isn't over, and Piloto and Aviator are still close, so plenty of battles still to go here at Canada, as they usually do.
Yeah, exactly. I'm expecting a dive here from Nixana into the hairpin. He's just about come in. Beaker's giving him sufficient space. He is on the curb as well. Actually, really well handled there through that hairpin from Nixana. He was on the curb, and it's all about the patience on the accelerator to not lose it. And I think realistically, Beaker's got no answer to this, surely. The DRS wing being open means that Nixana is that bit faster, but is Beaker going to be behind as we come into the chicane? He's still holding it down the inside. They're going to go side by side throughout, and they kept it clean. Never mind. Beaker, he's had a wobble. I think realistically trying to go side by side through that final chicane is like trying to sign your own death warrant, and he has fallen to P4 along with the penalty he's already had anyway and the wing damage he's now got on the right hand side. This race is going to be very difficult for Beaker.
Yeah, I think realistically he's actually now thrown away any chance of a win because he's got penalties, got damage, and now there's 2 cars separating him and Ixana. So unless there's some elusive crash with the 3 cars ahead of him, I think he might have to settle for P4 at the moment.
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on there. Plozapaya getting himself a penalty through turn 4-5. Not quite the clean and consistent driver that we normally see today. Roshko sadly has disconnected from the session due to Steam disconnect, so he fell outside of the... he can no longer take control of his car, it seems. He's also having issues trying to rejoin too, so... shame for him, but hopefully he can get himself back in this race ready for the second race, the sprint race, because obviously we do these in 2 parts, so there's still plenty to play for. Beaker, actually talking of plenty to play for, he's still in the tow range of all of the drivers ahead of him, and that all the way up to P1, so yes, there's only 3 of them, but that's each step of the podium that he could plant his feet onto if he can get it right, which if Azzy is going to make mistakes like that, this might be the move that Beacon needed in order to get himself back on there. But again, it comes down to penalties. Again, it comes down to consistency. And I think Beaker right now is just going to have to bide his time. A little bit of a mistake there from Lando's Milman, as you might actually go for a run in towards turn 5. This has got to be a clean exit, and he hasn't quite got it. He's going to slot back in behind Lando's Milman, and that is going to be a still P3 for now. Running out of laps, though. We're on lap 8 of 10. I actually don't know how to call this.
No, it's difficult because Lando's had a very good run at Nixana. Was forced on the grass a bit, which I think is what then caused that dynamo effect with Azir and Beaker. And with his DRS, I think the most important thing is to keep him the second range coming up to this detection point, because if he loses DRS to Nixana, I think surely he's going to run away with a win, and then it's going to be up to Lando's, Azir and Beaker to settle second place.
Yeah, I mean, Beaker's got the penalty, which stands against him. I don't imagine he's the only one of these 4 that has the penalty, but I don't remember seeing any of them from anybody here. I mean,
Nixana has a penalty.
Does he? Okay, so
yes.
it's realistically down to who has the least penalties out of the top 4, because the rest are a bit too far out. Kulmanik in P5, he's on an island. Beaker looking again in towards the final chicane. He has to back out once more as you're getting very scared there, and he gets himself a penalty. Very well done there for Beaker with a mind punt to scare Azir through that final chicane, and I think on top of that he's also going to lose a position. Yes, he is. Beaker up to P3 now, and he's going to have a lot of work to do over these remaining 2 laps just to get himself up into P2. Maybe P1, but that gap is a bit too big, I think.
Yeah, and especially with Nixon and Beaker, I believe, having the same amount of penalties, he'd still have to overtake him on track, and with the damage, that'll just make things even harder for him. So I think main target right now, get past Lando's, and then just see what you can do on the final lap. And I said Lando's needed to keep within the second. He has been able to do that, and that has now left him vulnerable to the likes of Beaker and Azir. Azir's actually fallen back a bit, maybe taking a bit of back from that earlier overtake and the penalty. Big slide from Beaker. That's going to give Azir right back into the hunt. And at the moment, I think Lando's the only one in the top 4 without a penalty, which means he could actually still nab this win. Yeah,
potentially. That would really help him out quite a lot if he could, but, I mean, we've still got the remainder of this lap to go, and we've still got the next lap to go, and, you know, anything can happen, like Marquez is trying to demonstrate here on Foxy. That's a bit of... excuse me. That chokes me up a little bit. Marquez went for a move down the inside. It took me by surprise. Was not expecting a little flick down the inside. He did obviously back out. He didn't actually go for the send, but yeah, that was a bit of it. Oh, here we go then. On the back straight here. It might be Marquez getting it in time for Foxy. Foxy's still trying to stick it down the inside into the final chicane. They've got another. Both of them have got a penalty for trying to go too wide, and I kind of put that on Foxy. That looks like he just went a bit too hard on Marquez to try and stick it alongside of him, and realistically, I think that's... Oh, he's done it again. Just turned into him there. That is a mistake made. They are still going side by side, however. No damage on either car. Wheel, literally to wheel. And this is actually going to benefit Hayden. Hayden is just sat there behind them, just watching all this unfold as Marquez gets pushed onto the grass. Bit of a scare there for him. He's actually trying his best to recover now. Marquez is just trying to hold on to this final point position. He needs it. But the gap between P9 and P8, which was within the penalty range that Aviator, who's got quite a fair few, is suddenly extending a bit too much.
Yeah, I think at the moment, if I remember quickly, Aviator is currently safe in that P8 to get pole position. So I think between these 3, it could be just bragging rights as to see who can get 9th. Wouldn't be surprised if they all have penalties. I will check in a moment, but Hayden's having a look at Marquez.
Well, Beaker's actually looking at Lando's Milman as well. He's actually going to get moved on, I think, in the braking zone into the final chicane. Lando's Milkman knows not to fight it, but Beaker cut that corner quite severely. That was almost certainly a warning there. And not good for him. And we come across the line then. Nick Sander takes the win. Beaker takes P2 until the penalties are applied. And Lando's Milkman climbs up to P2. I think he kept it completely clean penalty-wise. And he almost gets Nick Sander. But then it's Beaker, Azia, Kulmanik, and Tortor getting P6. We just need to have a quick look at Marquez. Is a drag race to the line. Marquez will get P9. Fox it. Hayden! Hayden jumps up to get P9. By just keeping it that bit cleaner, he gets himself P9, and that's more importantly, some points to help him out in this weekend championship.
Yep, and it's exactly what we were saying earlier about consistency over pace. That has served Hayden well. It's got him those extra couple positions. He's saying a couple points helping his aid. And he will be starting 9th next race, which I believe is higher than he started in this race. So if he can keep it clean again, he could get some big points in the sprint race.
And on top of that, the sprint race is very much a, obviously the faster drivers, or at least the faster drivers that were in this race, tend to, well, they will be starting further down the back. And that does run the risk then of, let's be nice about it. Let's say it battling. Yeah, I think that's probably the first way to say it. Battling is going to be the one main thing, but then you're also going to have, you run the risk in worst case scenario, contact, DNFs, mistakes made, and that will allow those that are a bit further back to climb forward. The priority, again, has to be keeping it as clean and consistent. Do not get involved in any incidents. Don't get any wing damage of any kind, because that will just pretty much put you in the dirt. And you'll just find, like Hayden just found, you will climb places even if you don't fight anybody.
Yeah, and I think that is going to be key, isn't it, into who's going to do well in the second race, because of course the faster drivers will be out of position. They'll be trying to get through the slightly slower traffic, and that could cause a few incidents, I think, will be the small way of saying it.
Well, here we are, though. Look at this. It was Nick Sander who took the win. Lando's Milkman managed to get himself up there with his teammate in P2. He just about secured it because of his cleanliness and consistency. He has, I think he's one of the only 2 drivers to keep it completely clean. 3. Because Hayden did it, Kulmanik did it, and also Lando's Milkman. Those 3 did keep themselves clean enough to secure themselves some extra points. Speaking of extra points, Beaker got the fastest lap, so he gets 2 more, which is why he's only 1 point behind Lando's Milkman. But more importantly, Nick Sander gets the 25 points with Lando's Milkman P2, Beaker P3, Azia P4, Kulmanik P5, Tortor P6, Piloto Paya P7, Aviator P8. Now remember, these will be flipped and reversed, so Aviator will start on pole in the next race. Hidden Gullis will start in 9th. Marquez will get the final point. Voxy gets best of the rest with Dazzler P12, Mini Duck P13, Badger P14, Tiger Racing P15, Roshko, Tiger Jr., Burrito Bandito, Max BSS all the way down in 19th. And our only DNFer of this Grand Prix, sad to say, but it looked like it was a bit of a frustration retirement there from Raven Duck.
Yeah, I didn't see exactly what happened with him during that race, but if it was our frustration, wouldn't have been surprising, as I believe he was at the back during all of that. And it is a dry second race, so maybe tyres will also come into this now.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the sunniest of days, shall we say. It's a fair bit cloudy. I don't suspect that we're going to see any rain, but we have been privy to those sort of races in the past where it has started out dry and it's gone into wet conditions, and also the opposite. So there is a chance, and especially with the clouds looking as grey as they are right now, there is a real window here where we could see rain fall. This obviously is a sprint race, so it is a bit shorter. It does mean, though, that the drivers will still need to be as quick and clean as possible. In fact, it's more important in this race to be quick and clean as possible, because if you don't, you will be very much at risk of losing a hell of a lot. So, Aviator is going to be the one leading us around on this formation lap here in the sprint race. This is the final of the F2 races before we move into the highlight video and then on to the RNL F1 race. Obviously, it's Canada once more, and it's just going to be an absolute beautiful race today. I can just feel it. Canada has always delivered season after season after season. We've already seen what it can do in the first race of the F2s. We're about to see it again for the next 7 laps here in the F2 cars. And I think, you know, I'm gonna have to do it to you. I've not done it to you yet. I need your 1, 2, 3, please.
So what I've done before is go with a bit more preference towards the faster drivers, and it's usually been wrong. So I'm going a bit different. I'm going to say Aviator for the win, Tortor even second, and Beaker third.
Oh, okay. See, if Beaker puts it on pole, then normally he finishes in the win position. But when he starts in this scenario where he's like sort of mid-pack, or at least he's behind a fair few drivers, he gets a little bit scrappy. He really struggles to keep himself out of trouble. And today he looks like he's fired up. Either he's frustrated or he's just eager to do well in these races. I'm not sure exactly what's causing it, but we did see a lot of dive bombing. We saw him go side by side into the final chicane, which he knows is the wrong thing to do under normal race conditions. So I don't think I can back Beaker on this occasion, and I'm hoping he can prove me wrong. But I think you're right. Aviator P1 for me. Piloto Payet, now he's up there in P2. I think he will stay P2. P3, I actually think Nixon is going to climb. I actually think Nixon is pretty good at diving through people and get himself back up into P3. I just hope he can do it without causing any contact with any other driver.
Yeah, that'll be the main thing, because of course, if he gets a podium by just smashing everyone out of the way, it's not really going to be a well-looked upon podium, is it? So hopefully he can do it cleanly if he does it at all. And then...
Sorry, go on.
And then the rest will be up to how clean everyone else is.
Yeah, that, and obviously Lee Corners will be paying attention to this too. So here we are then, the second race. The lights have gone out and already we are away. There was no delay there with the lights. They came on and then they went off pretty much as soon as they came on. Aviator has kept himself quite nice, but look at this pack here. All of them fighting so hard, side by side. Beaker is actually going to be on the outside here. Nixon is going down the inside too. He's actually fallen a tiny bit there. Beaker, big spin there. I think he actually took that on his own. I think he just spanned the rears a bit too much, and that caused him to get rotated and fall down the order, and he's out. He's left the session. That is a frustration right there, if I've ever seen one. Yellow flag, obviously, for Sector 1. That is for Beaker's car. He's going to be in dead last. The Nixana and Hayden. Whoa, that was a very close one there for Dazzler. He managed to just about avoid contact. But look at how bunched up they are now. They are literally going to be side by side, wheel to wheel. It's going to be a crazy one going forward as Badger's actually trying to go around the outside of Nixana. Dazzler Duck has just been nudged a little bit from Nixana. That's going to allow him to destabilize. Badger was trying to look for a move, but he couldn't quite get the exit he needed. Nixana, P11, pushing his way through. There's been a bit of a rotation down the back. That is Max and Tiger Jr. They've had a bit of a coming together, and that is a very broken front left wing for Max, and an end plate missing on the right hand side. I think Tiger Jr. has actually avoided damage. Oh no, he's missing a right end plate, sorry.
Yeah, and look at Dazzler all over the back of Nixana. He's just going left to right, seeing if there's any crack in the armor. Is he going for it? Oh, he's scared Nixana. Look at that. He's fully cut the chicane. That's surely at least a warning for Nixana, so he's likely to get penalties as he's looking at Mini Duck into turn 1. Can he try anything? No, he cannot able to stay behind, but he's all over the back. At the moment, I believe Mini Duck is actually the leading of the Ducks.
I think I may have jinxed Nixana, to be truthfully honest, because he was looking really good. Suddenly he's not. He's going for a move, though. A Mini Duck into turn 4-5. That is not the right way to do it, as he's had a bit of a rotation there, and he's lost out quite drastically down to P13. Nixana is actually still all over the back of Mini Duck. Mini Duck gets a little bit of a tap there from Nixana. Gets onto the curb, and a bit of a rotation there from him. He's trying to go around the outside. Cannot quite stick it through. They are staying as is for now. Nixana still looking. Surely he's going to send it. No, he's actually backed out because look down the inside. Dazzler Duck. What a send. I think he did force Mini Duck off the track there, though. That did cause, I think, a rotation for him as well. No, he's actually still going strong. But this is actually allowing Nixana. He's going to look for the dive. Yeah, he has to go for that dive there. He's way too close to not. Does get very much on that curb, though. Dazzler Duck may get the better exit through here. He's not quite got the traction he wanted. No DRS yet. That will be at the start of the next lap. Then they can go it fully all out. Dazzler is actually still closing in there.
Yeah, he might have, unless the slipstream is more powerful than I remember, he might have lower wings than Nixana, because he seems to be, a bit of a slide out, he seems to be struggling in the corners a bit more as well. So I think Dazzler might have more of a straight line speed oriented setup than Nixana. And also up front, look at Lando's movement all over the back of Cool Manic.
Oh, Badger's retired. Oh, that's in the pit lane. Okay, Badger's retired in the pit lane. That's fine. there is still a bit of a scrap going on for P1-2. I mean, ideally, from our prediction perspective, we don't want them to swap places. We want them to stay, at least for mine anyway, as is. Because I did say Aviator would take the win with Plotopaya behind. I didn't actually consider how much battling they could do on this circuit. There's still a fair few laps to go, and there's still plenty of opportunities, especially now that DRS has been enabled. They could fully go for it, and there's nothing really to stop them as Marquez on the back of Brito Bandito coming into the second chicane. Or the third properly. And that's actually, is that Brito got broken right wing? I think he's missing an end plate there.
Yes, he is missing a right end plate.
He's got the better tyres. Marquez looking for a dive into the hairpin. He's been given the sufficient space he needs. I think, yep, Brito just couldn't quite get the run through that corner. He has now gained that position. Landers Milman is on the back of Cool Manic as well. There is a yellow flag sector 2-3. That is in fact another racing point. I believe that is, or BWT Ardent, sorry. That is Raven Duck, who has had an issue.
Yeah, and I think it's actually a crash this time. It's out of one of the chicanes. So he very easily could have simply lost traction there, so it seems to be on his own. Yeah,
very much so. Okay, so the battles on track are the battle for P1, the battle for P3, and then the battle for P7. These are the point scoring positions, remember, because only the top 8 score points in the second race. The points are obviously reduced in total. So Nixana, yes, he has a point, but he is getting a little bit hungry, I think. He's looking for more. One to take away from Hayden Gullis, who hasn't got the tow. He hasn't got the DRS on the driver ahead. That is his teammate. So there may be a bit of a strategy call here. There may be Foxy saying, Hayden saying, Foxy, please, can you just back up a little bit? Let me get into your into the suck. And then hope that you can pull me forward, because Nixana is all over my Krev and I cannot afford to be losing any positions. But Lando's Milkman, he wanted to take some positions by force, and this is how they do. Is actually, never mind, look at Plotopaya. He's going for a move on Aviator, but Aviator did close the door. That has been reclaimed back by Aviator. There's also Lando's Milkman and Colmanic fighting with Tortor for P3. Tortor! Mistakes were made. I think he got on the grass and spanned the rears, and that put him in the wall. He lost his end plate, and here we go around the outside. Lando's Milkman trying to force his way through, and I think he's just about done it. They were definitely given sufficient space. He's going to take it around the outside through turn 3. They've had a little bit of a, I don't know, argy-bargy or a bit of a lag or something's happened, but Lando's Milkman is ahead now, up to P4, and Tortor loses 2 places very swiftly.
And I think that's the second time now, isn't it, that we've seen someone have a bit of a wobble out of the last chicane and then immediately after get damage. So, obviously they'll have to be careful about that. Landers and Cormander would have seen that happen, and they will be saying, okay, we've got to be a bit careful there. Pelota as well, he's just 3/10 behind Aviator.
Oh, look at this. This is an Nixana on Hayden Gullis going down the inside here into the chicane here. I think he's just about done that. Hayden did surrender the position. I think that was the right thing to do. That was always going to end up in disaster otherwise. But we need to go back up to our race leader battle, because Pelotopaya has got a really good exit. He has got the tow. He has got DRS. He did get the door shut on him last time round. Can he outplay him? Is he going to flick to the inside? He's not. He's actually going to get the move done in time before the break is over. We've got the same battle going on behind there for P4. That is Lando's Milkman, I think, on the inside. Yes, he is. He's got that move just about done. Kulmanik just stayed out of the wall, and Tortor will reclaim that position, and he wants more. He wants to get him done into turn 2. Here we go, then round the outside, but he's going to be on the inside for turn 3, and it's all about the exit speeds. A bit of a wobble there from Tortor. He's just about held it. This is also Kulmanik hanging on onto the back of this too. 3-car battle for P3, and Lando's Milkman will stay in 3rd place since the final chicane maneuver, and now Kulmanik only loses 1 additional since that mistake. And Tortor, despite limping effectively, he is back in the running for a podium.
And meanwhile up here front, it looks like Pelota is actually running away from Aviator. As I didn't notice, Aviator's lost his right end plate, so I'd imagine that'd contribute to it.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, Kulmanik actually, look at this. Kulmanik and Tortor going side by side. Tortor will have the inside for the hairpin. This will be Kulmanik going around the outside if he can make it stick. Tortor's gone a tiny bit deep, but he's given him more than enough room. He's not forced him out of the way. The acceleration, that's Tortor shutting the door. That was a scare for Kulmanik. That could have been a trip into the wall had he spanned the rears there, or a pit maneuver Tortor. The DRS available for both drivers, but no tow available for Tortor. This is going to be a bit of a lunge here for Kulmanik. He needs to back out, to be truthfully honest, and he has done just that, but he has mind-punted Tortor, and that has brought him a penalty on board, and now he's also got a better exit through that chicane, so he should be able to look for an outside maneuver through turn 2, inside maneuver through turn 3. We saw Tortor try to do the same thing on Lando's Milkman last lap. It didn't quite work out this time, but here is Kulmanik not going to get that move done, as Tortor parked it nicely on the apex, shuts that maneuver down, and Kulmanik will have to bide his time because we are now on the final lap. Mistakes being made ahead. Is that Lando's Milkman?
That was Nixana.
That is Nixana.
I think something's happened with him, and I don't know what's happened, but he's got damage.
Yeah, I didn't see any penalty warnings come up for contact or anything similar to that effect. I have just seen Foxy get a penalty there. I think that might actually be his second, which means that both Hayden and Nixana should jump this position. Hayden will actually go to P6, so some big points for him then, considering where he started. Like you said, he did start higher in this race than he did in the last, and Nixana's going to try around the outside. He's on the grass! Oh, that's never going to work. He did try his best, but the gap was not really there, and that did mean he gets sent down the field. Hayden Gullis has actually got himself ahead of his teammate now. They're not towing each other, or at least not yet. They may in a second. There it is. So Hayden up to P6 as we come across the line. Piloto Pyre will take the win with Aviator falling down to P3. Lando's Milkman getting P2 again. And then you got Tortor coming to the line. He will cross in P4, but he loses out to Kulmanik. I think they had contact between them. Hayden Gullis taking P6. Very, very close to taking P5 there. Look at that. 94 thousandths of a second was the gap between him and Tortor. And that would have been all it needed to be for him to take P5.
Yeah, and I thought a colossal crash was going to happen at Heaven. That was very scary to watch. And I think it was just Foxy braking a lot earlier than Ixana and a bit earlier than Hayden. Which massively cost Nixana. Ended up with him being 8 4/10 behind Foxy. But it's been a good couple races for Hayden, hasn't it?
Oh, it has. And honestly, Hayden Gullis has really shown what he's got, effectively. I mean, we've always known him to be a driver who has potential. Quite often, he's somebody who makes mistakes by just being a bit too pressured. Through all of his time doing my team, I think he's started to really handle that pressure a lot more. And then now he's obviously clearly been doing a little bit of practice in these F2 cars because his pace is really quite good. He just seems to be not as good when it comes to the qualifying than what he does in the race. And if he can just fix that slight little issue, he'll bring himself further forward in the actual qualifying, which makes his race that bit easier. Then he can go ahead and maybe even get himself a nice cheeky podium. But driver of the day is Landos Milkman, and fair play to him. He did really well in both the races, secured P2 in both. And I actually think, if my maths is correct, I believe Landos Milkman now takes the overall weekend win. I'll have to confirm in just a second. Before we actually look at that, we're going to need to see the race results from this one. So Piloto Pyre took the win despite his penalty. He doesn't gain on Aviator because he had one himself. Landos Milkman gets P2, so well done to him. Aviator P3, Kulmanik P4. Tortor just barely ahead of Hayden Gullis in P5. Hayden getting P6, Foxy P7, Nixana getting the final point scoring position. He did also get the fastest lap, so he gets some points for that. Dazzler Duck gets P9, Marquez P10, Mini Duck P11, Roshko P12, Burrito Bandito P13, Tiger Racing P14, Beaker 15th, Max 16th, Tiger Jr. 17th, and Raven Duck and Horn Badger, the DNFers with Azia in this session. But the overall weekend win goes to Landos Milkman by 2 points. He secured P2 in both races. He gets himself 30 points overall. A very good job by him. With Nixana now in P2, Piloto Pyre P3, Kulmanik P4, Beaker P5, Azia P6, Tortor P7, Aviator P8, Hayden Gullis P9, Foxy P10 with Marquez in P11, Dazzler Duck P12, Mini Duck P13, Roshko 14th, Burrito Bonita 15th, Tiger Racing 16th, Max BSS in 17th place with Tiger Jr., Raven Duck and Badger rounding out the remainder of the 20. Now that is the F2 races done and dusted, but do not go anywhere because in just a few moments time we will be moving on to the F1 highlights from last week straight into the Grand Prix right after.